Good evening, everyone. Welcome, everyone, this evening. Everyone online as well. Hope everyone can hear me. At this point, being 6:32 p.m., we will open the October 13th, 2021 meeting of the Westminster Select Board, Wednesday evening. We'll call to order and we'll begin with the adjustments to the agenda.
I have none.
Seeing no adjustments to the agenda, we will move on to the minutes of September 22nd, 2021.
I move we accept the minutes of the meeting of September 22nd as printed.
Second.
John, you're going to have to say something. I don't think anybody's watching when you raise your hand.
Okay, thank you, Cynthia. I had a question about the meeting minutes.
Sure. John, I can see. Is John Jones?
Yes, Mr. Chair, it's John Jones, to recognize myself. How's everybody? The only thing I had is we got an email about the ACCD, and I didn't see it populated on the agenda tonight as a pre-warranted item. So I just didn't know if that had fallen off or has changed.
Agenda. The what?
ACCD.
But we're doing the minutes. What would that have to do?
He's referring back to the adjustments on the agenda.
Oh, we're going back there.
Correct. Yes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, John.
And what part is that? I'm sorry.
It is an email that was sent out on October 4th, just asking to warrant the ACCD on the agenda per questions that were asked from Scott from the state of Vermont here. So let me just get to it. It's referenced the Economic Development Committee and the question of Westminster having one.
Okay, are you prepared this evening to discuss that matter? John?
I'm prepared to take it up if the select board and those in attendance are prepared to take it up.
We'll put it after F. After F, we fit in there.
Yeah. Certainly we can put it on as new business. G, section G. Would that suffice, John?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I was just following up on your email you sent to us on October 4th. That's all.
Appreciate that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving back to any other comments regarding adjustments to the agenda from the public? Online? Thank you. We'll then proceed again to the acceptance of the minutes of September 22nd, 2021. I apologize.
All right. Do you want me to move that again?
Please move it again.
I move we accept the minutes of the meeting of September 22nd as printed.
Second.
Motion to move and accept the minutes of September 22nd, 2021 have been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Minutes are adopted. Communication and public comments. EDCC SEVIDS updates and discussion.
Hello,
Hi, welcome.
thank you for being here.
Can you identify?
Yes, I'm gonna take your mask off.
Sure, go ahead.
We're in our own little bubble, so we know ourselves. My name's Adam Grinold, I'm the Executive Director of the Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation.
Laura Sibilia, Director of Regional Strategies.
Jen Strawson, Director of Program.
So we're gonna be presenting a bit tonight, so first, just wanna thank you for the opportunity to be here. Laura's gonna lead off with just a general description, some of the services that we do, and review the packet that we've been given, and then I have some comments after as well.
Okay, great. So I think you probably all are familiar, but we will just recap. SEVIDS and BDCC work together to implement long-term economic development strategies for the region. And so SEVIDS is the long-term strategy board. They help create the SEDS, and the SEDS contains the strategies. BDCC is the implementation arm. So we have a number of programs at BDCC that Jen runs with a number of our staff. Those are largely funded with municipal funds, which are then leveraged for philanthropic and other public dollars to focus on issues such as workforce, training, business development, and working within our schools. So I'll just go through really briefly a number of the programs that we have right now. We certainly can speak at length to any of these, and so we'll just ask you to let us know if there's more information on any of the programs that you'd like, but I will just go through them fairly quickly. So our business assistance program, this is working with businesses throughout the region, helping them access planning and funding. Importantly, thinking about succession planning for a lot of our older business owners so that we don't lose those businesses and services. In addition, we have business resiliency programming. This has been a very large part of the work that we have done this year with our staff and last year related to COVID, helping a number of businesses pivot throughout COVID and the ensuing disruption. The Pipelines and Pathways program, I think you've probably heard about that before. That is a program that works specifically in all 4 of the schools in Windham County. And it says, if our kids don't even know the jobs that are available to them, much less how to train for those jobs, how the heck are they going to stay if they choose to and work in those? And that program has been very successful. We're really proud this year. We had a number of seniors that graduated with credentials, Windham Work Ready credentials. And that is funded with philanthropy and public dollars. In addition, we have a number of workforce training and development, including internship programs. We have a recruitment and retention program that is expanding and innovating, looking at how we can help folks that are coming here connect to others in their communities, to services, to civic boards, and to business services to start businesses here and grow. We have the Southern Vermont Young Professionals, again, trying to connect folks that we hope are wanting to stay and grow businesses and families here. The Community Facilities Technical Assistance Program. This is available to municipalities like yourself and others who are working on improving community facilities, halls, garages, others. And this program helps to provide technical assistance so that municipalities are able to access USDA dollars, which are often available, but they can be tricky to apply for. In addition, we run the Southern Vermont Economy Project. That is a project that spans both the Windham and Bennington region for the Southern Vermont Economic Development Zone. That's a zone that was created in the legislature. This project works to develop capacity because we know that all of our, most of our towns are experiencing similar challenges or similar growth opportunities or similar limitations, or at least there's someone out there that's probably having the same challenge that you are. So we look to provide training and services and support for common challenges that are limiting growth in towns. And that is done with Sarah Lynn, who many of you may know. Finally, and Adam will probably speak more to this, but we're working on the Welcoming Communities program. This is a program that started in our SEDS, actually, many years ago, the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, thinking about how do we have a comprehensive immigration strategy. Places that are growing have thought about their immigrant population. A few years ago, the Boston Fed came out, provided challenges in Vermont throughout the whole state, and said, give us your best ideas on how to revitalize your communities. Of course, Wyndham County's been thinking about this for some time, and we put forward this Welcoming Communities proposal. We have a number of groups that are already working here. Perhaps you've heard of CASP, the Community Asylum Seekers Project. A number of our major employers utilize foreign-born workforce. And so we're looking to create kind of a systemic support system for those types of projects and make sure that we understand who's coming and how to plug them into jobs. A number of our employers, as you probably know, are looking for employees. And so that is a program we're pretty excited about, and it's growing. And I think I'll stop right there. What do you think?
That was great.
Okay.
The nice opportunity to be here tonight to present, is we've been doing this for about 10 years, going out, meeting with municipalities, explaining our views and understandings of the economy and how we can help grow it. 10 years ago, we had one community funding us. We now have 18 communities as of this past town meeting, representing 82% of Wyndham County residents. Over that 10 years, we've gotten to know communities, and as they get to know us, they understand the work that we do. And as they understand the work, we build those relationships, we build the trust, the understanding. And from that comes an appreciation of the value. And then after that, those communities are able to support our municipal requests. We have not succeeded consistently in Westminster. And we own that, I own that. And, we're really working to help connect with the community members so that people understand the work we do. It's not easy. It's hard to understand it and to see the value. And that takes time, and we're going to continue to do that. For us, a lot of the value that we put into communicating with municipalities is not necessarily the dollars, although those dollars are leveraged. If we have $100,000, we're going to turn that into a couple $1 million over time. So it is important for the work we do, but it is the opportunity to connect with the community so that they understand. So, we've heard it said that we don't do work in the Bellows Falls Union High School, that we don't connect with folks. And, when those statements are made, they're erroneous. We have the support. And so what we've done coming out of last town meeting is gathered with a bunch of Westminster residents and said, what are we doing wrong? How do we better explain and connect with you and your friends and, your neighbors? And they're helping us. Those folks are helping connect us with folks. And what we're seeing is it's contagious. When someone understands, they're like, now I get what you're talking about. And then that goes from neighbor to neighbor, fellow business owner to fellow business owner, parent to parent, understanding that opportunity. So we're doubling down on that. We're excited to be able to meet with folks. So, for those in the room, for those listening at home, our contact information is available on our website. We're really eager to meet with folks and make sure that we successfully communicate why it is so important. This past year, there was 47 businesses in Westminster that received 58 PPP loans, representing over 600 employees. That is a significant amount of support. I don't pretend to say that we helped in every single one of those circumstances, but there are businesses. Westminster is an employment hub, and those people, they don't all live in Westminster. They live regionally. They're part of our regional system, and that is the system we're supporting through connecting students to future employment, students to future opportunities. And it's the core of the work that we're doing in most of the communities, in addition to the business support. So I want to leave here with just the offer to get to know any one of us, and we're open to hear from folks. I'm happy to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you have anything to add?
No, I just wanted to say, you have materials that we sent out ahead. I kind of provided some updated packets for later. I didn't want to have you all have to rifle through new stuff, but it actually has more detail on the P3 program, the high school program in Bellows Falls. So there's a one-sheeter on the Bellows Falls, kind of what we've done the last couple of years and what we're doing this year in the school. And then there's a thing that we're just pushing out this week, which is just a data report. It's like 20-something pages of it, just as whatever economic data we can get our hands on. It has kind of the latest census, just population numbers, jobs information, some stuff about the real estate changes. So there's a little bit of stuff specific to each town, and then it's a lot of kind of the regional context. Really just trying to answer some of the kinds of questions that we've been getting from folks about what's been going on in the economy. So.
Thank you all for your presentation. Are there any questions from the board? Observations, comments? I would simply make one. Thank you very much for your efforts. Obviously, you do a lot of stuff. And many of this has really wonderful, not just possibility, but actually real traction when it happens. If I may make an observation as a taxpayer in this town, and as a fellow citizen, it's easier for us as a board also, when you're not present, to understand more what you're doing. So you mentioned the word erroneous when criticism does come in. If we know what the resources were allocated, how our taxpayers were targeted for that benefit, and what your actual results were. I'm not saying it should be, right down to the T, but if you give us something that's more concrete, our ability to capture it, understand it, support it, and then rebut it is much easier.
Yeah.
This is a lot of information, it's great. But again, how can I and how could we explain to our fellow citizens, this is the benefit we're receiving?
Great, thank you for that. And it's not easy to be able to do that.
Kevin, if I may speak,
Please.
as a citizen of Westminster,
Sure.
and also I'm Chris Hackett, but also affiliated with BDCC, BFADC. I've stood up a couple times at town meeting in regards to supporting this. You're asking for the tangible side of what they've done.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not also forget the intangible.
Sure.
So when these businesses they work with decide to stay in the area, there's one major employer, I don't know if you want to mention, that they work very, very, very closely with. The intangible is a lot of those employees pay taxes in this town. So as much as they may be working in Bellows Falls on a company, they look at the intangible factor here, the employees staying,
I appreciate
buying
that.
homes, apartments, etc.
I appreciate that very much.
The document that Jennifer referenced does have some specifics in regards to some of the work we're doing in Bellows Falls Union High School and in the community. Lists some of the support that we've been doing for businesses. So yeah, I mean, I get that this is really hard to throw at people with the amount of information and the breadth of the work we do. And we own the fact that we have to be able to distill that down and convey it so that you feel comfortable in being able to explain it to others.
Appreciate that. Are there any comments from online public?
I have something. It's Cynthia Stoddard. So I think you all know I've stood up at town meeting, just like Chris Hackett has said he has done before. I'm a huge supporter of the work that this organization is doing. I'm a little freaked out that it was 10 years ago that SEVIDS, that whole thing started, because I think I was one of the original board members, or maybe a couple years into it. So that it doesn't seem like it was that long ago. But what I just want to just reiterate what Chris said, is that this is a regional process. So if you want to know how many people you helped in Westminster, that's going to be very difficult. Like he said, it's the intangible that it's hard to read. I think being part of that, I understand it a little bit more, and I understand where people are coming from. On this side, they want to understand what it is they're getting for those tax dollars, but each of our small towns do not have their own economic development director, and so this organization in this process helps with that, helps each of our towns with that, without us having to hire an individual for our town and offer benefits and all of that. So that's one thing I wanted to say. The other question I had for you guys was, as we look regionally at the ARPA money that all the towns just received. Our small committee is talking about economic development, and is there anything we can do in town to use that money to help our town with economic development? If we come up with ideas as a committee, would you guys be willing to sit with us to just, so we can bounce it off of you? And is it a good idea? Is it something that your SEDS even it has talked about, so that we're not recreating the wheel on something, and starting over if we're trying to do something locally? So that's my question.
Hi, Cynthia. Yeah, absolutely. We're working closely with also the Vermont League of Cities and Towns in understanding information they're distributing. I heard mention the ACCD and the potential agenda item. I'll add that we have an agreement with the Agency of Commerce and Community Development. We do the work for economic development in Windham County. So we have a contract with them. That's a service that we provide regardless of funding from communities. So we are available to do that in support of Westminster, and would be a great fit to also layer in any ARPA conversations you'd be interested in. And would they contact Sarah for that?
Yeah, Sarah or me, either way. Yeah, and this is something in towns that have a little capacity around economic development. This is often a role that we play. Like, we kind of, people attend meetings, we provide data. I've done a lot of stuff in the last couple of years with some of the Brattleboro committees, with some stuff out in the valley, folks that are just trying to get up to speed and figure out what we can do locally, and helping them understand what's out there as far as information and kind of how to parse it. So we love doing this.
So Cindy, you still there? Cynthia?
Yep.
Could one of these folks perhaps attend our upcoming meeting with Ms. Buckley?
Yeah, I don't think if they had time to do it, maybe. If not, then we could bring to them what it is that we talked to her about. I think a lot of what we're going to talk about is not economic development. I think there's going to be a lot of ideas thrown around. So maybe not the first meeting. I don't know. Maybe John wants to jump in. He's on the committee.
John?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Cynthia. Yeah, I think the first meeting with Ms. Buckley is going to be feeling the groundwork out and forecasting ideas. I think as we move forward tonight, when we talk about this ACCD kind of requirement, we can talk about how these two will play off each other. And so we have other resources out there with the WRC as well that I would like to discuss at another select board meeting. So yeah, I think the kickoff meeting with Ms. Buckley would be just the foundation at this point, and try and see if we can get the right people to the table to have these collaborative conversations to help us move forward on projects. And so.
But you may hear that could be helpful at that meeting.
Yeah, we're absolutely available.
So you could be available at that meeting.
100%.
That would be maybe a good thing.
Okay, great.
Russ, can you reach out and see if he can send him the information to actually? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being here and for your input.
I can get your contact off your website. Your letter didn't have a contact.
Oh,
I'd rather,
yes.
I'd rather call you.
I'm still not well versed in in-person meetings. I meant to bring a card and I didn't. I apologize.
But if I go on there, I'll find you.
Yes, you will.
I'll contact.
Thank you. Yeah.
Any more comments for Sevitz? Okay. Thank you all again very much. Thank you. Moving on to property on Thompson Road, the trailer. Doreen Moran.
Yep. Hi, I'm Doreen.
Hi.
My husband Patrick. Last September, October, quite a few of us in the neighborhood were doing outside landscape stuff, and all of a sudden, a backhoe showed up and started leveling property down at the end of the road at 66 Thompson Road. And then next thing we knew, there was a truck that came in with gravel, and that got leveled. And then a fifth wheel trailer got brought in, and an electric service and water service was put in. And then somebody moved in, which we found out was Ruth Assard, the owner of the property. At that point, I called the town hall to find out, if permits had been given and, what the rules were for basically subdividing a property into two living arrangements. And didn't hear much. That was September, October. In January, I received a letter, so that's a full, 3 months later, that said, because we were abutters, we were getting this letter, and for placement of a temporary camper for the owner while she found suitable housing. And it said that we had 15 days to appeal from the date of the letter, which was January 6th. Attached to that letter was a zoning permit, which was dated December 30th. So that was about a week and a half before the letter. And it said we had 15 days from that date to appeal. And then it also said the effective date was January 15th. And it said that the construction completion date was January 15th of 2022. So anyway, we've had this trailer at the end of the road, basically two different families living down there. We're not real sure what's up with the septic. A couple of times we've seen a 4-wheel plastic container being pulled around by a lawnmower and then try to get dumped into the house septic system. I guess last winter it must have been cold. Travel trailers aren't made to be lived in New England. So they stacked up hay bales all around this trailer, and just a mess. It's a mess. And the people across School Street from us at the Valley Creamery, they have a direct line of sight. They're both working tonight, so they're not here. We have a direct line of sight out our sliding glass doors. And we just want to know what's up with it. It's been a full year. If you can't find housing in a full year, anyway, so that's what, and there's all kinds of dates, and so that's what we wanted to, that's why we're here.
Thank you very much. The Hassards here? Hi.
Hazard?
I'm sorry, Hazard. Do you have a rebuttal?
Yes, I do. But we have, I think, more or less conflict with what's been said. Russ is aware, and as far as being notified as to what was going on with the camper being put on the property, prior to it even arriving on the property, I had let Doreen know what was going on, what my mother's tentative plan. I live in the home at the end of the road. It is deeded to my mother, and my mother has recently sold her other residence and is temporarily living in this RV until her tiny home and/or my brother and his wife get a house with an apartment or a lot of land for her tiny home to go on. So a couple things are up in the air, but needless to say, I had spoken with Doreen prior to the camper's arrival that it was coming, and told her roughly what was going on. The following day, my brother-in-law actually has a small personal little Kubota machine. He actually brought it over to fix the drainage in the back of my property, because over the years, it's all clay, it slid down, and it was flooding out my actual mowable land. On top of which, it was also to prepare the end of the road there, which is the property, our property, for a camper to be put. Whether or not somebody was residing in it or not, it was to make a flat terrain so that the camper could sit safely. And that's what he did. There were 3 truckloads of 1-ton truckloads of fill dumped on the end there on our property, not gravel, not anything other. And prior to the truck coming and dumping the fill, prior to the camper even being brought from Whitehall, New York to my residence, I had already spoken to her and let her know, her and her alone. Nobody else had known what was going on besides my mother and myself. So at that time, Russ came to my home while my brother-in-law was there moving, fixing the drain culvert back there and moving the fill, and said that he had already received complaint that I was moving a single wide trailer in up behind my house, which was where he was just fixing the drainage. And that there was, other complaints made and that he wanted to know what was going on. So I informed him what was happening. At that point in time, to my knowledge and understanding, there's no laws or against putting a camper in your driveway, whether it be for my own personal recreational use or whatever. But I was just trying to be courteous in our conversation prior to this. So he knew, understood, he made me aware, and I had known this anyways, that nobody could reside in the place until things were permitted and up to snuff. And I told him I would take care of all of that prior to anybody moving in or anything of that. Everything was done, by licensed people or, by permitting. Nothing was done preemptively. He had come back, Russ, because there was another complaint saying that we were moved in and living in the RV prior to getting the permit. And that was the reasoning behind that, was because apparently there were lights on now in the RV. So that constituted us living there now. So it's been a series of complaints, and she has been informed all along. We put in for the permit once the camper was situated and it was cold, getting it up to snuff, winterizing, and making sure nothing's gonna freeze, everything's working properly. That she doesn't move into a camper that doesn't have running water and we still need to, clean the systems or whatever. So that's what we were doing until we got the permit and everything was okay, and the permit was put in the window and she moved in. Permit came and went.
I sold my house the beginning of January. So there was no need to move in before that.
Mm-hmm. So that we didn't move in. When the permit came, Russ had informed me that, she was given the documentation that the permit was approved. And actually, in my conversation with him, he had told me that she said that she wasn't going to argue and or appeal this permitting for the temporary housing. That was back when the permit was issued. So that was that. Recently, we had an ordeal.
Well, then there was the
Excuse
August 8th.
me? That has nothing to do with the trailer. Nothing to do with the trailer. We're here specifically tonight for the
That's not what
trailer.
this letter says. But then we got a letter on October 12th from the town, which was to remind me of the permit deadline of January 15th, 2022. Saying that, if I was there longer, it would be $100 per day, whatever, which is quite a bit before the thing happens. And then I just got one on October 1st, which says, it has been brought to my attention that there was an altercation involving your family and the neighbors that resulted in the state police coming in to break up the arguments.
Excuse me,
Not
this has
true.
nothing to do with the trailer. Does
Okay,
that
well,
have
can I
anything to
read
do with
this
the
letter?
trailer?
This was a letter issued from the town to
This
us.
was the letter I got.
So I don't know.
This is very disturbing, but I'm writing this letter to advise you that this matter is going in front of the select board on October 13th at 6:30 PM. Doreen Moran has requested this item to go in front of the select board for immediate action to remove your trailer. So, no, I don't know.
Okay.
So we're kind of confused.
So the altercation that happened was very disturbing to us as well, because it was over one of our cats pooping in her yard, which seems to be an ongoing issue for her, even though we've told her, put cinnamon in your garden, feel free to take the hose and squirt them when you see them.
Oh, you told me that?
What does that have to, excuse me, what does that got to do with this
Well,
whole
this was
subject?
what the
we don't know,
altercation
sorry.
was.
It has
You
nothing
know,
to do.
you are here to discuss the permit, okay?
Okay, well,
And,
this was what was in the letter.
That's why, the only thing, we're past the appeal date. We're not quite sure why we're here, because I looked into all of the VSA 24, whatever you want to call them, state rules or regulations under the permit code as to, how far after putting in for the permit there is to appeal. It said 15 days. As of the letter that was issued with it, it says that as of that letter, that there is no longer an appeal time period, that basically it's up. And that was back in January, or December, I'm sorry, December, beginning of January, that the permit was issued. And then in order to appeal it, essentially, there was nothing significant in those little Title 24 things, but that it had to go through the, some other board,
Okay,
so we're not quite sure, honestly,
Okay.
why we're here.
thank you.
Sorry.
That's all right. Do you have anything else to add?
I don't.
Okay. Where are we on this permit?
Okay, so both parties are correct in how it all transpired. On a complaint, I do inspections. I went to the house and watched the gravel being leveled. At that point, it's permitted to put gravel in your yard and park your own trailer, so I had no issues with that. Kept them abreast of when somebody moved into the trailer, then I needed to know, and permits had to be done before that. These folks have, and others have been keeping me abreast of other activities that have been going on, all which were within their purview of their permit. I made them prove that the septic system was large enough to accept this new trailer. Their water supply was acceptable, so that's on file in the town hall. We issued the permit on December 30th, so the expiration to appeal was January 15th. They have 1 year. That was the permitted amount of time, which is in our bylaws to find suitable housing when the homeowner has found themselves in that predicament. We've done it many times. They have till January 15th to live there, and after that, then it's a matter of moving out. And they know that. We're all aboard with that, so at this point, they also had talked, just so you know, the subdivision of a tiny home, even on that parcel, told them that was a bigger process going through the Development Review Board. It's been a process going right through, like most of these.
Is that even possible on an in-town lot, a subdivision?
It is with proper permitting and septic system approvals and all that. So that's why when they started this process, I said, you should start now because it's going to be a lengthy one. And, well, they didn't do that. They haven't done that yet. So anyway,
I'm just curious.
That's where the town's at is so far, we have no issues.
Russ, you said numerous times. Give me an example. Outside of a house burning down, we let somebody put a camper, because I've been here long enough where we went after several people who were bringing campers up and trying to say that they were just coming from out of state, parking them, and that's how they wouldn't pay property tax. Because, and so what's the difference between a camper and a home on a piece of property? We would say
it's got a temporary use. It's a temporary home while they're doing something.
So you declare it temporary because normally
they're either building a new home, so they can live in the camper while they're building, or in this case, they moved in, and while they were creating a new home for her, they were given a temporary permit for a year, and that's what the permit is. It's a year, period.
Even though the camper would, let's say they moved into a place where there was never going to allow it, you can allow somebody to live in a camper?
No, it would have to be an allowable permitting process. I mean, if it was, I can't even think of one, in a wetlands, no, because the septic approval wouldn't be there, water wouldn't be there. So it's got to meet a criteria before we'll allow it. And we have done many while people are building, while they're living in a camper, I have one right beside my house. They're living in a tiny house while they're building their new house. They have 2 years to do it.
And by that permit, they're exempt from paying property tax on it?
Oh, heck no.
So you're going to tax them for the
Their tiny house while they're doing it, yep. And they have been assessed.
Okay, that's what I guess that was my
Yeah.
question.
They've been assessed.
Because now you're really living in, it's not really a camper. At that point, you become taxable.
I don't classify a tiny house and a camper as the same thing.
No,
In my mind.
no. that's exactly right. This one happens to be still on wheels and et cetera, but yeah, it's, they're given to the assessing firm, like every permit that I issue, and he goes out and
And they're allowed in that area to actually end up putting a camper in that area. Let's say they take and put it up on blocks, they can do it?
No,
So it is.
no, this is a
always-
temporary housing situation where newer, better circumstances are going to happen before the fire permit expires.
And is that the case?
Yes. I mean, she's building a tiny home. She downsized from a multiple bedroom, multiple bathroom home, bed and breakfast, and now, to a tiny, she's building a tiny home. So there was no, had to kind of give up one to get another, in a sense, and that's why she's temporarily living. The property is deeded to my mother. It's my mother's property, and she is the one in the camper. I'm in the residence on the property. So, I mean, it's kind of tricky in a sense, but I mean, it's her land. It's not like it's mine and she's just like freeloading off my land. It is her property, and it's a temporary RV until her home is constructed or a residence is available for her.
And it also should be noted that if it was reversed, that Jeannie was moving in, it would be a whole different animal.
Mhm.
But she is the owner of the land.
That makes more sense. That
So-
makes more sense.
And just want to make sure that we're following the proper procedure with respect to everyone here. We're all citizens, we're all fellow taxpayers. Abutters, that's why we do this process, also have the right to know exactly what's going on, particularly when they're concerned. I want to make sure that we follow the proper procedure, and also say this, that any of you, any member of town or citizen, you're our fellow taxpayers, you're my fellow taxpayers, I'm glad that you're all neighbors. Don't ever feel as if you cannot come to this board for any reason and address us directly if you are uncertain over what is going on, for any reason. There should be no reason why you should not feel as if you're not welcome in front of this board. Have we followed the proper procedure and making sure that we have notified all the abutters to this property what is going on in a timely fashion, and that they know exactly what the current situation is and how it's going to be resolved?
Yes, they have the information set by law.
Okay?
Excuse me.
So, okay.
My only problem is this work was all done by the time I was notified by the town.
Is that true?
The gravel was placed.
No, everything was done.
The gravel was placed, the trailer was moved in there, no one was living there.
Right.
Then
But
they
the water
called and said
electric
they.
were already
Okay.
in.
Well, you go ahead and say what you
No,
have to say.
everything was done, other than, she says, moved in before I was contacted by the town.
But again, you can move your own trailer into your own land and park it.
So
mean,
if I want to put
it's
a
their
trailer
land.
in my yard and have
My daughter just
my daughter move
graduated.
in, as long as my septic big enough, I can use one of those little totes and walk over and
And
dump
move
it in my
septic.
septic.
You'd have to get a permit, but,
Well,
and that's the other way around, so
Yes,
that's
why.
that goes to the DRB, because she is not the property owner. And that would have to be a hardship case. Because she's the property owner, she was able to move her trailer
Technically,
onto
you
her
would have to
land.
move out of the house and move into the
Right.
trailer and let her
Right.
move into the house if you want to be technical to match
My
them.
problem was, all the work was done before I was contacted by the town.
And that was just the pad and the trailer moving in.
And for that, we are sorry for everyone if we are not clear and timely. It can cause additional friction, and that is our bad. And I want to apologize to everyone for that. That causes additional friction in a difficult situation. That's not what we intend to, because we serve you, the taxpayers, at all times.
Question,
Yeah.
so if I was to, if my mother wasn't to move in there and I, wanted to make sure that I was getting a camper, whether it be a zero value or, brand new, and I wanted to make sure that the ground was level enough that I didn't have to worry about it rolling in a windstorm down my embankment, putting gravel down and moving this camper in, you have to notify your neighbors if nobody's gonna be living there?
No,
No,
you
right?
do not.
Okay,
That's why it was done in a timely manner,
okay.
other
Just
than
wanna
the
make sure.
gravels, which anybody can put down gravels in their driveway or create a driveway, and they can move their own property onto their own property as long as it's not a hindrance of some other means. And this is just a dry camper, pulled into a gravel parking area, no permit necessary.
And I
Until they turned it into a home, then the permits were issued and notification was made in
And I
a
just
timely
want
manner.
to let know also that I personally told Doreen that this was being done prior to the gravel coming to the house. Then my brother-in-law had dropped off his Kubota and moved some of the drain, fixed the drainage that was flooding out. That was it. So before the gravel came, before he smoothed it out, I had already spoken to her the day before and let her know that this was going on. And that actually that afternoon, the following day the gravel was dropped, that afternoon Russ showed up at my house asking me questions about it. And she had already come down and asked the town what was happening. So I already told her firsthand what was going on before anything started moving. Just so, being a neighbor, I was trying to give her the heads up, so like, things look crazy down here, that's what's up, kind of a thing. So I wanted to make sure that was clear, that I could tell her.
Is it currently tied into a septic system, or are you having to move?
No, we have the waste cart for the septic. And I have an open septic cap, 2 septic caps.
Okay. Any more comments from, no? Any more comments?
No.
Okay.
Russ, just one quick thing.
Sure.
When you, because they were discussing time and everything, when you send those notices to like neighbors, is it a registered letter or just a regular letter?
It's just a regular letter.
So we don't have a signed thing that they received it on the 15th and.
No. We send it in regular mail with all of the documents that tells them how they can proceed if they had an issue with the permit sent. The appeal is to the DRB and then to the environmental court.
Again, any delays or confusion that were caused by this board, we monumentally apologize to all of you. That is not our intent, and we can always do better.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you. Yeah, all set. Thank you very much for coming. Okay, moving on to the Planning Commission, Barry Shamus and Soroya Crouch.
You did good at that, I'm proud of you.
You guys there?
We're on Zoom, both of us.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you very much for squeezing us into the agenda. I greatly appreciate it. I'm Barry Shamus, and I am the very new, as of last night, chair of the board. And we're coming with this proposal to you, and we feel like it's last minute. If you feel like it's last minute, we can appreciate that. And just as a little background, our committee didn't have a quorum in August, so the meeting didn't happen. And then September, our chair died a week before the meeting, and then I picked up the role and tried to figure out what needed priority and so on and so forth. And one of them was to do this municipal planning grant. And we are very lucky on the Planning Commission to have Soroya, who actually has some experience in planning grants and in planning. And she has been fabulous in helping to put this grant together. And I'm going to hand it over to her to talk about the grant. And I did send to all of you sort of an outline. I don't know if you saw it, but I did email it to you. So that's basically what we'll be going over. And of course, we're happy to answer any questions. The main thing is we're hoping to get you to agree to this project and to sign via the state process of online digital signing. We thought actually you would all be, everybody would be on Zoom and you wouldn't all be there. So that's how we set it up that way. So, but that was a misunderstanding. So anyway, Soroya.
Okay. Hi, everybody. So the select board, you guys should have a copy of this. I'm hoping that says Westminster 2022 MPG application summary. Now that's 2 pages.
Send it directly to you in an email.
Oh,
and
This is,
I
this is
saw it,
just the
yes.
application.
Yeah,
I saw it. I didn't print it out, but I did see it.
Okay. Would you like me to share my screen with the document, or what works better for you guys in the meeting there?
No.
I might be able to see the screen very well. I can just go over the document with you.
Go ahead.
Okay, so what this is a municipal planning grant from the state to assist towns with technical and professional assistance to help them with aspects of the grant that they may not, as volunteer members of a planning commission, have complete expertise in. And so we were, suggested to apply for this grant by the Wyndham Regional Commission. And we looked at what kinds of things we might need and came up, realized that there was some help that we would want. So what we're looking at is the grant application deadline is in about 2 weeks. So this is the select board meeting that we would have to have you guys approve this application in order to meet the submission deadline. We approved it last night at the Planning Commission meeting. And there's two aspects to this approval. So one aspect is just approving that we're applying for the grant. And the other aspect that there is a very small budgetary element to this, because in order to obtain this grant, we have to provide 10% matching funds from the town. The total project cost that we're looking at is $14,500. The grant we're requesting from the state is $13,180, and the matching funds provided by the town are $1,320. However, because this grant goes over an 18-month period, we can supply, the Planning Commission itself can supply $500 per year for this year and next year out of our budget. And we're asking the town to supply the additional $320, which would be in the FY 22-23 year, is when it would be required. So we're asking that you'd approve that $320 plus this grant. And the grant it involves various things that need to be done, like updating the maps for the town, creating a couple of new maps that are required with the new planning requirements. Also seeking some more public input on various topics, working to harmonize the goals that we come up with the state goals, so that there's like a nested kind of flow through of priorities. And working with the Wyndham Regional Commission staff to help make sure that we've covered all the different areas that are legally required to be in the town plans. And additionally, last but not least, clerical support in preparing the final version of the plan, because there's a lot of formatting that needs to be done. And we realize we need to hire somebody to help with that, to get it to a publishable state. And then also to focus on being able to publish it on the town website in a accessible form, including all the maps and everything. So there's a budget on the second page of the document that I've sent that gives you a breakdown of what we're doing. And so we're hiring staff from Wyndham Regional to help with certain aspects of the grant. We're also hiring staff from Vermont Farm to Plate, which is the organization the state hired to create an agricultural and food system strategic plan for the next 10 years. And their goal is to work with communities to help, especially farming focused communities, to really find ways to help support the future of farming and also agripreneurial businesses that currently fall sort of in between some of the different regulations. They don't fall totally into the business, but they're a little bit more than what is normally thought of as farming. And they're also interested in helping to create food systems so that, people don't go hungry and things like that. And then also hiring somebody to help with the formatting and the proofreading and, just finalizing it into a professional looking document. So I think that's mostly everything. I'd be happy to field questions if people have any.
Please.
This sounds like a terrific idea. I'm thinking the 320, we wouldn't have to vote on it, we would put it into the budget.
I think what we should do is, if we approve it, we would just ask Russ to put 400 in a line item, where the line item would be, because it'd be in that year that we're discussing now anyways.
Right.
We typically bump it on a year that we do town plan anyway.
Yeah.
Because they've got mailings they've got to do for meetings, et cetera. So this would be just an additional.
They're out of their own budget, which they have a right to, so all they're asking for is, let's round it out to $400.
Yeah.
So if I made a motion that we go ahead and approve them.
You can't hear, and this is communication, public comment, it's later in the meeting. It'll be quick and easy.
Signatures.
Excuse me?
They want your e-signature that was sent to you. That's preferred, right?
I think we should sign it, I'll scan it to them, and they can send it along with the.
I don't think the state does everything DocuSign now.
Okay.
They want your.
Whatever.
So
So
we
you're
can sign
gonna
it.
individually do it?
What's that?
You're gonna individually.
It was sent I got it individually.
Yeah.
You should prove it all at one time.
We can also upload a signed document, though, since you guys are all there. We didn't realize everyone would be in the room, or we would have shown up in the room tonight, but I think you guys can all sign it tonight if that would be.
I'm not, sorry for the interruption, but especially with Toby Young here, my concern always has been, we are collectively making a decision in the public forum. It should be part of the public law, and that we are all here. And I would hope that we can all sign this because we're all present if we choose to approve it, and therefore the document should be uploaded. I monumentally apologize if I interrupted you. I just wanted to make sure that we were, the reason we were requiring the public appearance was that we were all present. That's on the public record, and it's a public meeting law requirement. And since we're all here.
It just has to happen in the latter part of this meeting where you can do action.
Okay.
You can't do it in communication, public comment.
Fine.
We tried to get them.
No problem.
Here in the meeting.
Are there any other questions or concerns?
Is there two parts of this? Is there a part that we're actually going to agree and sign to give them the permission to do the grant? And the second part is we're going to put $400. So
That's correct. It's going to be two different.
That's all, just clarification.
Yep.
So we all
two different motions.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else from the Planning Commission? And thank you for all your hard work and effort.
Thank you.
No, I think that's everything. Thank you so much.
Good luck with the rest of your meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye now. Okay. Thank you. We got a lot to do. Let's move on to unfinished business. American Rescue Plan, ARPA, COVID, local recovery funds update.
All I have is the date of November 4th at the Institute at 5:30. That has been confirmed. The village did get a DUNS number and are filling out the SAM's information so that they'll be their own separate entity, so that will be cleared up. But do you have anything to add to the meeting that we had?
No, I thought it went well, and I'm simply going to ask any input from Cynthia or anyone else who's serving on the board. Committee, excuse me.
I don't have any input. I think it's a great group. I'm glad. I'm looking forward to it.
And thank you, Cynthia, again for spearheading a lot of it to get it to where it is. And Russell, thank you. Any other comments? Terrific. Okay, let's move on to Hartley Hill Road, private section update.
We have no updates. I haven't heard who from legal counsel.
Okay. Moving on to invoice for school district update.
I haven't heard anything on that either. I didn't know if you had, being the chair. That's honestly why I thought some of us were here, but not obviously. So there is no update if you don't have anything. Kevin?
No. Collaborative Finance Processing Manual, update.
Darlene, are you here? Okay, so.
Yes, I'm here. If you can hear me.
I hear you.
Okay. So I was out of town, and so I had some free time on an airplane. So I have typed up 7 procedures so far. I don't know what the process is of communicating this procedure manual to you. Is it going to be, you want to see each step in the process? Do you want to just know what has been done? I'm not clear how we communicate this internal procedure book with you.
What I've done so far is what I could have done, is just put it in a policy form, and we were waiting for Paul and yourself to put more information in there. So I can forward you that if that's easier, and then you can just cut and paste your stuff into it, or we can work that out after.
Okay, because mine are multiple pages for every process you do, because to me, it's not just words. You need to see exactly step-by-step instructions. So every procedure I have is at least 2 to 3 pages. That's why I want to make sure how the board would like to see it in the future. So we can talk about that later, but I just want to be clear. It's not just one little page or a little paragraph. These are multiple pages of how a process in the town should work. And this is how you fill it out. And this is the screenshots, and this is how we proceed with it. So
We'll have many drafts. I would assume you guys can put what you need to have in that, and we'll go from there.
Does that sound good, Darlene?
yes, that's fine.
Thank you for your excellent work. Cindy, does that sound good? Cynthia, sorry.
It's fine with me. It's all up to Darlene.
Thank you.
She's
Okay.
got it covered.
Great. Again, I feel we're making a lot of progress. Any questions from the board?
Well, that's great, good progress.
Okay, wonderful. Let's move on. 7/29/21 storm progress.
Everything is pretty well put back together. We're going around grading now. The only thing we have left is Hartley, Davidson Hill, the deep gorge. They're working on that right now. Hemwood Hill or Forest Road, Covered Bridge Road rather, that bids are in due tomorrow on that.
Friday.
Friday, I'm sorry. I was thinking today was Thursday. Friday. I was gonna meet some guys up there, no one showed up today, so I don't know if anybody's gonna bid on it or not. And the only other thing we got is up here, School Street, at the end of School Street and Heights Road, the culvert that comes underneath the interstate is a 5-foot culvert, goes under School Street intersection there, goes down to 2-foot steel that's stuffed into a 30-inch concrete somewhere under the road. So.
And very deep.
And very deep, very deep. But it didn't sound to me like we went to a FEMA meeting that they would reimburse us for fixing that. So we're gonna have to seek out funds somewhere else so that's why that whole intersection isn't completed yet because we're gonna dig it back up. So if we put a bunch of stone over the bank and then we get a grant, let's say, to replace that culvert correctly, it wouldn't make a lot of sense to do it twice. So that's where we're at.
Okay. Questions, concerns?
We haven't given up on V-Trans helping us. Also, we're going to hit them to see if we can do an improved project there because of their upgrade on their side of the stream, which is 91, left us with not proper drainage there. So hopefully with some finagling, we'd possibly could get some help there, but we'll keep you in the loop, but we're not totally out of the water yet.
They did say at the meeting that we could, as things progress, you can file for an upgrade. So they
Improved
possibly
project.
will, we can, what do I want to call it?
And it's an improved project.
Yeah, I know, but they had a word for the,
Mitigation?
anyway, it doesn't matter, whatever. So anyway, there is a process where you could possibly get funding, but it's a process.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, who's speaking?
John Jones,
John Jones, you have the floor, John.
thank you. I sent out an email from WRC that was forwarded to me, Transportation Alternatives Program. And this has a deadline of November 24th. I haven't heard back from the town if we want to proceed to apply for this grant, but it does outline a lot of the stuff that Mr. Lawrence is talking about, and I think this would help. So first question, was everybody aware of this? And two, do you folks want to put this as an actionable item so that we can possibly get this grant written to help with some of the economic offsets?
Town manager?
We've just been extremely busy. We haven't had a chance to do anything but what our FEMA directive is right now. So if you're willing to help us, I have no problems, supplying information, et cetera, but I don't see that Chuck or I are gonna have time for the next month or so until we can get a really good handle of what our total expenses are and how we can do the progress payments for FEMA.
Okay, so if the select board is willing, let's put this on the agenda for the next meeting, this Transportation Alternatives Program. And I will work with Colin at WRC to see if we can get this written. Unfortunately, I don't have access to grant writing. I believe that's in the town manager's wheelhouse, so we'll have to seek guidance on how we would apply for this.
Okay, so again, John, we all appreciate your efforts because you're working very hard behind the scenes. And if you can, again, impress that email, since it's on the record, to pursue that, we'll make sure that it's on the agenda. So we'll make sure that it's on the agenda for the October 27th meeting. Do you still think we would have time to meet what I think you said was somewhere in a later November deadline for that?
I believe we will. I think we'll have to expedite, everything, but I think we'll make it. Let me follow up tomorrow with WRC staff and see if I can get the portal opened up, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Okay, so we have a game plan, and you'll put us in the loop on the emails.
That is correct. I will resend it. Yep.
And again, thank you for your time and consideration in this matter. Any more comments? Okay, let's move on to the 5-year capital plan.
I still have one item.
Oh, I'm sorry, my apologies.
In your packet, you have a summary of expenses, and you still have a balance. And I'm talking with Darlene, and since she's here, she can speak to this, what to do with this balance that has not yet been approved for final expenditure allocation from you folks.
Darlene, you have the floor again.
In speaking with Russ, my suggestion was to use up some of your fund balance for the balance that is due on this storm damage. Potentially, you may have some savings coming from your current budget that could offset some of this. We won't know that till the end of the year. But right now, it should just go into your general fund expenditures of the road. I think we should create an expense account that all the storm damage goes into, and then use your fund balance to be paying that down. My comments to Russ was I personally don't think you need to borrow any more cash from your line of credit. You have cash. You have $1,700,000 in cash in the bank. And you can use that to pay for this. Yes, some of that is money that goes to for other purposes that we do know where that belongs. That's held in the do-to-do funds. This is proper fund accounting, the way it's being handled, and it is totally okay to use these funds because cash is different than where the allocation of the revenue has gone. Cash is cash. You can use the cash. You don't need to borrow more cash. So my comment was to use up some of your surplus, your fund balance, and let's see where this brings us and how we get funding to reimburse this. But my concern as a taxpayer is, how are we going to pay this line of credit back? If we're worried about paying this, we also got to pay that line of credit back because it's short-term borrowing. So we got to have a plan for this. And I think that it's kind of, I wish we had learned maybe a little bit more, because I feel like there's no reserves for any type of emergencies happening. And why haven't we planned for that? That's me speaking as a taxpayer. So my thought right now is you could use up your fund balance to pay for what remains of the expenses that remain to be paid out. You have the cash to do it. Ultimately, it will use up your fund balance.
Jason.
In doing some reading today, I read that fund balance has to be approved by voters to be able to use that money. And the treasurer's handbook it is dated 2002, maybe it's changed, I don't know. But if there's money allocated to a certain place, how can you just take it from that place without voter approval?
So the fund balance needs voter approval, but the cash that you collect on a daily basis, that is revenue is recognized in the correct revenue line and its correct fund, is held in your do-to-do fund. So we can at any point in time pull a report that says, if all of a sudden the town needs to do a reappraisal and you need the money that sits in your reappraisal fund, we can tell you in a push of a button how much of your cash that sits in your general checking account belongs to the reappraisal fund. And that money can be spent on reappraisal. It's just, I mean, think about the cash you stop collecting in February and you don't start collecting until September again. You getting a lot of money from a lot of different sources, and you're using that to pay your everyday bills. So it's no different than you don't have separate accounts, which would not be proper accounting to open a whole bunch of bank accounts to put this cash into. The system does it. You keep it all in your general checking account and you use the cash as needed. But any point in time, something is needed for a specific fund, we can pull up that accounting and say, okay, that fund has $172,000 in it. That's what you can spend out of that fund.
So Darlene, can I jump in for a second? Do you mind? So
no, I need help.
So let's take out in the discussion all of the other funds like reappraisal, bridge fund. Let's take all of those out of the equation and just talk about the emergency fund, which I believe had $150,000 in it. And that fund was set up a few years ago for this type of emergency, right? That's what we That was the whole discussion. So you had 150 there. Then in your general fund, which is your general operating fund to run the town, last June or this June, we ended the year with, I can't remember the number, was it 354,000? Was that?
Yeah, something like that.
So let's just talk about those two. That's an undesignated surplus of money that, and the way you're talking, Jason, you're right. You can't just willy-nilly spend that money without voter approval. Okay? So
Well, you just told us. Yeah.
Wait,
Am
no,
I not-
hold on. Hold on. Those two pots of money equal almost as much as what you've spent on the storm so far.
Yeah, about 500,000.
So whether you are using the undesignated surplus cash, now we're talking cash, or you're borrowing the money to pay for these bills, you're still using undesignated surplus, because where is that money coming from? It's either going to come from the taxpayers later if we don't get reimbursed by FEMA, or it's going to come from FEMA. So who do we want to pay back? Do we want to pay back a bank? Or do we, when we get that money back, pay back ourselves? There might have to be a discussion at town meeting that says, look, we used up every bit of our surplus between the emergency fund and the town undesignated. We did it on this storm. This is how much we expect back from FEMA. What do we do with the rest? Do we replenish our surplus? Because we could raise taxes to replenish it. Or do the voters say, well, no, we understand. But just because you're borrowing money doesn't mean you're not using surplus money without voter approval right now. You're spending money on something we didn't approve, but it's an emergency. We get it. So when Darlene's talking about it's okay to use the cash, it's just a natural progression of cash flow. You're getting money in, we're paying bills. At the end of the year, we kind of run out of money, the general fund does, because we're left with delinquent taxes sitting there we haven't collected. So if we're kind of running at a low cash flow, we may be using some of that reappraisal money if we didn't have a surplus, because right at that point, we don't have the cash in the bank for the general fund, but we do have it for the reappraisal. And then once the taxes come in, that gets replenished. So it's kind of an ebb and flow of what Darlene was talking about with the do to froms. But just because you're not spending cash out of what you're calling the surplus or these other funds, you're spending money without voter approval right now by borrowing money. So you can either borrow the money and spend it, or use the surplus and spend it. What Darlene and I have been suggesting is use your surplus because you're not paying interest on it for a short term. You may have to, if we find out FEMA's only going to reimburse us for 250,000 of it, you spent our money without asking us before voter approval, had to do some of it. So I think,
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it would be beneficial at some point too, if we actually have select board training. I think it was in Killington quite a while ago, because they had a lot of different checking accounts to track their funds. If we could show you a visual of what we're talking about. I mean, this term due to from is like foreign to most people. And fund accounting, if we can show you the mechanics of it, of how it works, a visual of it, it might help you understand what we're talking about when we're talking about these funds. But you're absolutely right, Jason. And if you've been to town meeting, when I've been there, when they've spent money that they haven't asked for approval on out of the unassigned or undesignated surplus, I'm a huge, I don't know how to say it, but I'm totally against that, obviously. But you're doing it now. I mean, you're doing it, you're spending that undesignated surplus now. You just happen to be borrowing money to do it, because we're going to have to pay it back. If FEMA doesn't pay, who's paying for this? We have to pay that loan. It's not free money. They're not just giving it to us and saying, you don't ever have to pay this back.
I
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
Come on.
rely.
It's getting late.
Nate,
past-
we can hear you.
Past, you came back and wondered why the board didn't use the surplus. Well, the board didn't know we had surplus. We only know the amount of money that somebody comes in and tell us we actually have. And it's like a target. It changes every meeting we have. But I'm comfortable your firm is the one we hired, that if you actually think we have that kind of surplus, I'm comfortable believing it and then using that money.
Well, not only did we say it, the auditor confirmed it by an email he sent Russ 2 weeks ago. He gave the same figures that I gave you of what you had for a surplus at June 30. So it's not just us. I mean, and then that's what Darlene's there for when she's reconciling checking accounts. And if Russ comes to her and says, look, we've got $300,000 worth of bills to pay next month, that's where the communication comes into play that, okay, let's make sure we have enough cash. If for some reason all of a sudden the cash flow is low because it is going over what we thought and it's digging too far into, then you have the line of credit to pull from. I don't think either of us are suggesting never use the line of credit. We may have to. You just don't have to use it when you have money. That's all. You know, if all of a sudden all of these other funds you needed to make whole, the bridge fund, the equipment, whatever it was, where you had to give them their balance of whatever their fund balance is at the time, you may have to borrow money or use some of the line of credit. But you have to just keep track of that. I mean, we're doing it in Bellas Falls. They've spent $400,000 or $500,000 on the storm. And we're just using the money that's sitting in their bank account and tracking where we're at with it. So, I mean, I have a serious concern with, is FEMA even going to pay us back for a lot of this work that we did? That's more of my concern, because as a taxpayer, that's more of my concern. Because then at that point, you really are dipping into our surplus without knowing where the money's coming from. So we'll see how it all sugars off. That's all we can do at this point.
So I have a question. So last year, hi, this is Susan, at town meeting, we had a surplus amount. I can't remember what it was. And so we were asked to have the town allocate it by defining exactly what we wanted to do with, 100,000 here, 200,000 there, whatever. And so the taxpayers could vote on it. So at this town meeting, we will have spent some of that surplus on the roads, if that's what we decide. So now what the auditor told us is not going to be precise. So we're going to have some idea of what surplus is left over, if any, so the taxpayers can vote on it at town meeting. Is that correct? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think what happened at town meeting last year was you were using 100,000 of it to reduce the tax rate. So I think in my calculation I did the other day, I took that amount off of there. But I mean, I don't know that if at this year's town meeting, if you're really going to be able to tell us, because we won't know at that point how much FEMA is going to be reimbursing us. So this might be one of those years that you have to tell us, we got to wait, because maybe we'll get reimbursed for all of it.
Mm-hmm.
You may have to ask us for a borrowing to pay off the line of credit.
Or just, we have some surplus, we don't know what it is, so it's just going to be until the next audit. Is that what you're saying? If there were a surplus?
Yeah, I want you guys to try to get out of that cycle of waiting for the next audit to know your surplus. You don't need an auditor to tell you. You can, with all the bills that are coming in, you can almost even project what your surplus is going to be by June 30 by really looking closely at your budget throughout the year. And so that's something I'm hoping having Darlene working on, that you guys get out of that. You should know your surplus at any given time in the year. Out with last year, where your current expenses are, and even project out where you're going to be. So let's get out of that cycle of waiting for the auditor to tell us where we are. You should know by the middle of July where you are.
And at the end of, we would know.
Yeah, this year is going to be difficult because you've got this huge expense that we have no indication how much of it we're getting back from another source.
Or when.
Or when. It could be in a whole nother year. So.
Again, I
we're kind of in limbo right now.
Really appreciate all the fine work that's been done here by Nemrick, Darlene and Cynthia and our auditor. I just want, again, for the record, as we stay with the record, because the record in my last 2 town meetings have been what everyone relies on. So this year, I do want to just reiterate before we close and move on that is there any disagreement over the fact that we had an emergency situation, that we lacked a concrete certainty over resources and materials, personnel, equipment, in order to make sure that we made roads safe, passable, and met our fiduciary obligation to our fellow taxpayers in this town to make sure everyone was safe and that the roads were open and that we did everything we needed to do. And could we have waited beyond 10 days, 20 days to go through a formalized process to pick and choose contractors we didn't have? Is that inaccurate, what I've just said? Please.
No,
Chuck.
absolutely not.
Russell.
Absolutely no.
Anyone here on the board?
No, you're correct.
Okay. So my position is always going to be at town meeting that we acted with the immediacy that was required in order to make sure that we preserved property, lives, safety, and we were in a very difficult position given the lack of time and ability to get or secure contractors who were, quite frankly, as rare as hen's teeth and had other obligations. So I just wanted that to be on the record. If anyone wants to add to that, they certainly can. If not, can we move on?
I'm sorry. I just want to say something because I feel like this might be, because I am such a money miser, but I feel like this might, maybe it's not, Kevin, it feels a little bit directed towards me because I know I've said to you before that I have, and I'm trying to trust in the process. I've just been in the process so many times during these emergencies that, and maybe I'm a little gun shy from the whole bridge thing that we had happen with hurricane, whatever hurricane that we had, but is that we fought with FEMA to get money back because we did work that was beyond what they thought they should reimburse. I guess maybe I'm just having, and I've been in other towns where this has happened, where it's gung ho, gung ho, gung ho. And believe me, I'm not complaining about any of the road work that was done. Our road looks awesome. It looks great up here on Pine Banks Road. But I'm just really concerned with that part of it. And I just have to trust the process that we'll get back what we can, and that we've crossed every T and dotted every I, and we have all of our expenses noted properly and our bids out there properly. I just have to trust that process. And I'm just struggling with that a little bit. So I know I've said it to a few of you that's my biggest concern, is that we're not going to get all the money back that we should get for the work that we did. So.
Thank you. And if I can assure you that was not my intent. However, if you feel that my intent was somehow directed toward you, it was not.
I know I've mentioned it to you already, so I just wanted to make sure, and I mentioned it to Craig about all that too, so.
I apologize if that was the inference. It is not. You are a deeply valued strategic partner for this town. We all appreciate everything that you do and have done, especially to raise the bar going forward for everyone else who takes the seats up here. By all means, your prior experience with the storms and everything, that's what we're counting on for your input. I just want it placed on the record consistently that the record is representative by those who were there that made the decision that we did it, and we did it with the best intentions of the town. That's all I'm saying. Okay?
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, great. Let's move on. New business. I'm sorry.
No.
FY '23 budget review. Given the fact that it has been,
We're tired.
yeah, we have gone a long way tonight with a lot of stuff. I would ask that we would just simply table that. I don't think we're putting ourselves in jeopardy by tabling that review for this evening.
Which one, I'm sorry?
The budget review.
Budget.
Oh, so what happened to the 5-year capital and,
I'll get to that, but I want to just,
okay.
okay, so we're going to table the budget review.
I think we were on a 5-year capital one, to be honest with you.
5-year capital plan?
Yes.
Are we talking about that?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
he just skipped. I just wasn't keeping
okay.
track here.
Do you have anything?
I met with it, so I've got 3 stages we have to do in North Westminster community: insulation, the heating, and water and sewer, and now those are all done, and I'm working on getting estimates. And I have one more, which is the contractors for looking at what the cost would be to put windows and do upgrade, put ceilings in. That'll be the next one, so that I can come up with a solid number if we were to proceed, what is it gonna cost to put the building back in decent shape, so I'm
Great.
gaining.
Without a
Thanks,
kitchen?
Craig.
this
Those
point?
are gonna be optionals.
Oh, okay.
Come back
All
with
right,
all those
somebody is
options.
looking at. Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
and then while I got a minute too, I wanted to get the committee who I have 6 people on that has been, because of me,
Great.
dormant since
Yeah.
the COVID-19. Now that we're that close, I was gonna call each one and see if we can come back as a committee and get together and start looking at resources that could use the building. And now that we know that we can actually get it back up in shape, so.
Thanks, Craig.
Thank you, Craig. Anything else?
No, I'm probably gonna address the town garage, but when we get into the budget.
Terrific.
Next time.
Okay, wonderful. Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much. Moving on to new business, executive session, select board only.
I'll make a motion that we go to executive session later on with the select board.
Motion for executive session, select board only has been made
Seconded?
and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried, executive session. Okay, possible adoption of rules of procedure for municipal boards, VLCT. This is the document, I believe, that was submitted by Planning Commission?
No, this one was submitted by your town clerks.
Oh, my
Their
apologies.
email is on the very back of your,
Last page?
yes.
I'm
And
sorry, all.
they're sending you this because they went to a class for their annual conference, and rules for procedure for municipal boards and committees was brought up, and they handed out a sample of what could be a policy that this board might be interested in.
Terrific.
It has some great information that you're not going to make a decision tonight, but it is in your packet so that you can read it, and I'll, at your pleasure, table it till next meeting, or.
Please, and unless someone wants to discuss it tonight, I don't think we have had a chance to take a look at it, but also want to thank our wonderful town clerk and Patty Mark for bringing this up. It's something that we should review at least annually or maybe every 2 years to make sure that, we're keeping up with procedure. So yes, let's table it to the next meeting, please, Mr. Town Manager. Thank you, sir. Okay. Moving on to the bidding process discussion.
In your package, you have the email that Larry Slayson sent to Kevin, along with a model purchasing policy with ordinance, and his statute that he literally got this information from.
I'll just put this back on the agenda and then discuss it.
Yeah, but let's have some, I think we have some commentary tonight.
I
Jason?
responded back to Larry
Okay.
I don't know if anybody else saw that, but well, first of all, I just want to be clear that this stems from an email that I had sent after getting a copy of the Covered Bridge Road request for bids. I feel like, only speaking for myself, in order for everybody to have the same information, we should have a mandatory pre-bid meeting on site, so everybody gets that same info. And I'm not saying that it's maliciously done, I'm not insinuating anything like that, but I feel like for everybody to be on the same page, they all need the same information. And it's like what's that game? Telephone. Something is always lost in translation or gained. It's not really correct. So I just want to see clarity. It's really not, I'm not questioning the procurement policy. I'm not questioning any of that. It's really just a procedure more than anything.
And when you say mandatory, do you mean a company could not bid unless they
Correct.
had someone attend the?
Correct. It's not out of the ordinary. It's, that particular bid had 14 people that it was sent to. Do you want to make 14 trips or do you want to make one? I'd rather make one. Everybody gets the same info. I'm only speaking for myself. If nobody else agrees, that's fine too. We can move on, but
that happens a lot, because the problem is, even, because I have to go to them too, is that when even your competition asks a question, you thought, oh, I didn't think of that. So if that person had asked the question, I wasn't at the meeting, now the person, let's say it's Russ, has to contact all the bidders again and say, hey, listen, this was raised as a question, you weren't there, this is the way we want to do it, and you go back and forth for everybody to get the real information. It comes, so it does, there's a lot of bids I go to where it says, this is mandatory, you come to this, there's a question and answer.
Yeah.
We'll answer any question you want, and, but everybody's there to witness what all the questions were, so everybody leaves with the same information, that's all.
As I recall, we did this once when we had, we were doing the cutting of the trees on the town forest. And we had all the cutters there. And
When you have a guest, you definitely have a mandatory meeting. This one was pretty cut and dry, so typically I haven't been. It's up to you folks to change that, which is fine. You typically, and I say typically, you'll lose a bidder or two if it's mandatory, if they're busy, out of town, et cetera, and they don't have anybody to send. This one actually is a very moot point because we didn't have any contractors yet come to us. So,
I had one call me today or yesterday, I guess it was, and I offered to meet him there today at 3:30. He called me at 3 o'clock and said, I decided I'm really not that interested.
what is this?
this was the Henwood.
Oh, okay.
So we're not going to get, having a hard time finding someone?
Nobody wants to do it.
That's,
Okay.
this is our whole FEMA process has been a bear because
Yeah.
So it's not as
you can't-
easy as people think about.
Yeah, you can't-
You got contractors like lined up like.
well, and this time of year, people are just
swamped.
They're just busy. To take a gut, like, for me, an example, for me, one person to stop what I'm doing and go, which I have done. I mean, if you want to look at it and bid on it, you have to do it. It's just what it is. Some I bid on, some I don't.
And then plus, there's a lot of contractors are on a time frame where they're gonna get penalties if they don't finish the project
absolutely.
by November or whatever, so they're like, hey, I'm gonna lose the money over here, why would I wanna go do that?
Even the flood, I mean, we had some that gave us a day or two to just help get going, but they were not interested in long-term work.
And I'm not saying the way it went out was right or wrong.
No,
no.
It's just, I feel like to be everybody on the same page, that's the way it should be done.
I was just talking to people, the state has a website, I'm not sure.
It's business to business directory or whatever.
And that's what now a lot of people are using because nobody reads the paper.
Sending it in newspapers is a waste of time. That's why we sent out the letters.
Yeah.
So like the adoption of a procedural review, It's probably healthy to review this bidding process. I thought your email was outstanding, by the way.
I tend to type better than I speak.
And everyone did get it. Would ask, I know you're busy, Russ, but for our next meeting, if we could go over this again, so everyone has the 2 emails, and we can come to a final, discussion over at the next meeting, table that forward for our next meeting. To at least that we have reviewed it, and, we think the transparency, the efficiencies, and give enough people a shot.
At the end of the day, that's all I'm looking for.
That's all you're looking for.
Everybody's on the same page.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, John Jones.
Yes.
See, I can tell.
So one thing I want to just real quick, I know it's late here. As one of my assignments on the Transportation Committee at WRC, to take everything that we've talked about and look at it from the platform of procurement policy. When you do projects and you're looking for reimbursement from FEMA, you have to follow the federal, state, and our local. And if one is in conflict, you defer it back to the higher one. So when we look at how we're funding these projects or how our bidding process is, it's outlined there. And I do have all this and I'm happy to share it, but I feel that this is something that needs to be discussed moving forward, because it's part of the bidding. It's how we're going to leverage the funding from all these programs, whether it's the state or the federal government. So if we don't get money, they can then say, did you follow the process? Did you identify qualified candidates? And are they in your LHMP, which we're working on? So just wanted to throw that out there in consideration.
No, and I appreciate that, and we appreciate that. Excuse me, and we look forward to that information again, and you participating in our review of this process. John?
Thank you, I'm all set. Yep, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Great, so we will bring that back on the 27th, Mr. Town Manager, thank you.
Yep.
Let's move on to Emergency Management Directive adoption.
This is time sensitive. I received it about a week and a half ago, and it says, please reply to this email by October 27th with your municipality's second appointee. And what this is each and every town is being asked to submit 2 names, the Emergency Management Director and 1 appointee to the REMC, which is the Regional Emergency Management Committee, from each town in Windham County. So I need to know what your pleasure is.
So what's the layman version of, you're the.
I'm the Emergency Management Director.
They want an
We need
alternative
more.
one. It doesn't have to be a board member.
It can be a person of my choice. It can be a person of your choice. Typically, it's a local emergency management director or designee and the representative of the local emergency service committee to be appointed by the executive or legislative branch. It could be Kevin. Kevin is our appointee to the select board for emergency management in our processes. And it could be Cole Streeter, who is our incident commander. It could be any one of his captains that could be it. So it's.
Well, you need tonight a name to.
If you choose to know the name and choose the name, then yes. If you give it to me to designate a person that is willing, and I will hit the names I just spoke to first, unless Kevin wants it. That's the other.
I'm very happy to do it, but I can honestly say that Cole Streeter obviously is an expert in emergency management.
I agree.
But how do we appoint somebody who isn't here?
Right. I would have
Russ
to.
appoints him.
Right, you would just say,
Agency.
you're giving me the authority to. Right,
Is he-
right. I haven't talked to anybody about this, and I wanted to hear your point first, and I was gonna give it to
I would
Kevin
say is,
if you wanted
I'd like
it.
to see the town manager go ask Cole. If he can't, then he comes back and the select board's gonna push Kevin to do it.
Well, we don't have that kind of time, Craig. You're not gonna meet again.
No.
I have,
I'm
so
giving
you're
you
just
permission.
giving me permission?
Yeah, I'm
to
giving you
get Kevin
permission to do it.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
yeah, that's perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you. That's very helpful.
Okay, moving on. Cemetery deeds.
It is one deed with two plots, and it's in your packet.
I'll make a motion, we approve Hannah Shore Paulo, is that how you say her name? Paulo?
Paulo.
Yeah. For 2 lots.
Second.
Motion is made to adopt cemetery deed proposal for Hannah Shore Powell, which will include 2 burial locations in section B, row 14, bounded by East Crocker on East South Vivian, north of Mitchell, west empty in the Westminster West Cemetery. Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Kevin, yes, please.
All the years I've been here, nobody's ever opposed one yet.
Might oppose my own.
Already.
I'm here all week. Okay. Cemetery deeds, now we're on to Planning Commission grant request action.
We already did that.
Right.
No,
We need to move on.
Now we need to move on.
I move that we approve the FY '22 municipal resolution for municipal planning grant.
So moved, second?
I'll second it.
The municipal resolution for municipal planning grant, presented by the Planning Commission has been moved.
Who seconded it?
I did.
Correct.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None?
We need to move on the monies as
Yeah.
well.
Yes.
We do,
Yeah.
$400. I'll move that we authorize Russ to designate where we're gonna put the 400 in the next year's budget for the use of the planning commission training. Is that the best way to put it?
Grant.
Yeah.
Motion made.
I'll
Second.
Motion to,
Jason, you're gonna make them.
I'll go on this one.
okay. Motion
You know how to
to,
spell his name?
motion to provide the future allocation of $400 for the FY '22 municipal resolution. Municipal planning grant funding has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
So if you could sign yours, and I can give you a copy if you want it, and
Please.
pass it around.
Okay. Okay, moving along to, we added ACC. Mr. Jones. John Jones.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to follow up on this email to see when we could get back to the state of Vermont on the requests for what our board looks like, if any, and what our process is moving forward to establish one. And I believe this might encompass some other folks, some strategic partners in the community to help us address these concerns that they've forecasted. So that is the question. Does the select board have a plan for this committee to be adopted? And when should this be taken up?
Thank you again for reviewing this or bringing this back to our attention. Russ, do you have any input at this time?
I have none. I have no idea. I would have to go back and look at this email, to be honest. Again, we're a little swamped. Right
Yeah,
now.
no,
And so this is taking a back seat, probably not a good place for it to be, so.
Okay, so.
John, if you could forward that to me again, that would help me recognize the need, and we'll put it on next meeting's agenda.
Fair enough. Yes, I can do that. And then if there's anything that I can pass along to the WRC staff, because they have full-time staff and any other stakeholders, let me know, and maybe we can invite Mr. Randall Scotts to this next meeting so he can address his concerns directly to the select board and we can all be on the same platform of communication.
That sounds like a good recommendation, John.
That's all I have for folks on this. Thank you.
I really appreciate all your help, as always. Okay, moving on to the manager's report.
3 quick things. Tax sale is Wednesday, the 27th of October at 11 a.m. here at the town hall. At this point, we have 9 properties and dwindling. They're being bought out slowly but surely. The town manager will be out of the office on the 28th and 29th of October. Veterans Day is on Thursday, the 11th of November, and the office will be closed on the 12th in the observance. We will be working on that Thursday for convenience of taxpayers and ourselves.
Thank you.
No problem.
Boards and commissions.
We have great things to report. We have in your packets Alma Beals, who is interested in the Westminster Conservation Committee. She'd like to join. And of course, I need a motion to that effect. And we also have Richard Crocker, who is interested in joining the Planning Commission. Both are longtime residences and will be assets to both of these boards and commissions.
I move we appoint Alma Beals to the Westminster Conservation Commission.
Second.
Motion has been made to, and seconded to appoint Alma Beals to the Westminster Conservation Commission. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Alma, you're on the board. Thank you.
Yay, thank you.
Yay. Mr. Richard Crocker. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move we appoint Richard Crocker to the Planning Commission.
I'll second it.
Motion to appoint Mr. Richard Crocker to the Westminster Planning Commission has been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Question?
Oh, please, oh, we have a question?
Yeah.
Craig.
He's filling in for somebody's term?
He is filling in for Russell Lazarick at this point.
So he's finishing that?
Russell's, yes.
Just, is there more than that?
Part of the motion.
There's one other position open.
So that's the one that this person knows he's taking? Because if there's the other ones open, you see what I'm saying? You got 2 positions open, so we have.
Richard is taking Russell Lazarick's
Okay.
position to fill out the term so that he can get his feet wet and see if he enjoys it and will stay with it, which I think is due 1 year.
Do you need that as part of the motion?
No.
Just a clarification which one.
Appreciate that. So the motion for Mr. Richard Crocker to be appointed to the Westminster Planning Commission to serve out the remaining term of Russ Lazarick. And we miss Russ. Just wanted to say that we all miss him. Has been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Mr. Richard Crocker is now on the Westminster Planning Commission. Welcome. Anything else on boards and commissions?
I have nothing else.
Okay. Any other business?
I have one thing.
Please.
Mr. Chair. Susan asked me about the season of the year applications. Is there a deadline? We accept them whenever?
We accept them at any point, and the deadline typically is when the crunch comes for printing their town report. We want to just get the information in there. So, long story short, I would throw it as December 1st.
So maybe we could get that into the Gazette the next time.
Yep,
Okay,
yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One other thing, Russ, you sent out.
You gonna take care of that? Or do you want me
I
to?
will, I'll do it.
Thank you, Sue.
You sent out an email saying that was 121, he's going to proceed and all that.
Yes.
And that we need to fix, actually, my thinking is totally opposite from what we've been discussing, because when we've been discussing the traffic going through there, and really, I think it should be the opposite. I think we should just, we really don't want those people taking that road as a shortcut and anything. So having the sign up right now where it says you can't, it's not a through road, it's only local traffic only, we should look at that, in my opinion, down the road. Why would we want those people using that road to be a shortcut to anywhere? It's really only for those people there.
It's a little late for that. We put into the bid request that there was a deadline of the job
Well, we can still do the job. I'm just saying.
Provided you get a bidder.
Right.
I think it was June 1st.
No, I'm not saying not do it, but I'm just saying you still do the road. I just.
But not advertise it. Oh,
You know what I'm saying? When we get to that point where we start to
Totally
take
get
the
it.
bridge down, we should have anything signed saying this is not a through road, this is not for truck traffic, it's only for the residents. You see what I'm
I
saying?
agree, totally.
Because in the past, we've been talking about how do we do a light there, how we do all that.
Yeah.
I think it's been so dead on traffic behind Allen Brothers now because of it. That's what made me start to think about it, you know?
Maybe by default, it won't even be open, just because we haven't seen a lot of interest.
Right.
And if
It wasn't my
if we're gonna
intention,
do it
yeah.
ourselves, well, it'll be playing on the weather, because right now, we still got a lot of work to do to get ready for winter.
Right.
So.
I guess that's my point is like, yeah, I don't want to stop it from working, but I think the idea of keeping that road closed for people is.
Yeah, and it surely won't be advertised, let's go that way.
Yeah, okay.
Anything else? Anything else from members of the public online? Okay. I'll entertain a motion for executive session.
We already did it.
Okay, so at this point, we will move into executive session, select board only. Thank you, everyone.
Is that downstairs being locked? Sorry? Is the downstairs unlocked, Ripper?
For the bathrooms, yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm following you, better be.
I don't need any help.
He's a big boy.
So I can stop recording, or?
Yes, you can, please.
Good job,
Recording stopped.
Rob. Got through that.
This is new and
Amazing.
improved, it's got the new data that she wanted you guys to have.